Okay, this is a table that I put together to help you guys study and learn imaginary numbers. We discussed that imaginary number, notated by the letter I, is equal to the square root of -1. Okay, so anytime you have a negative under the root, we need to start thinking about imaginary numbers. So we said there are 4 imaginary values that we need to memorize. I to the power 0, of course, anything to the power 0 is a 1. I to the 1 is simply I. I squared is -1. I cubed is -I. You need to memorize all 4 values. Once you memorize those 4, then the pattern starts repeating, like we discussed in class. So, here's how we evaluate any I power. So, let's play with some examples. Let's say I want to evaluate I to the power 100. Now, I can simply sit there and try to list all the powers until I reach 200, but that means, or 100, but that means I will not be able to do any other question on the test. So we discovered a shortcut. I said, okay, instead of sitting there and listing numbers until we reach the 100, we're simply going to take that 100 and divide this 100 by 4, because we're repeating 1, 2, 3, 4, then we repeat. So we have 4, then we repeat the pattern again. So we're dividing by 4. Well, everybody knows that 100 divided by 4 is simply 25. You can use a calculator. So since we have no remainder, or my remainder is a 0, no remainder, or remainder is a 0, then the value is always a 1. Okay? So you divide the power by 4. If you get no remainder, if it's a perfect division, perfect number that fits into 4, then the value I to the 100 is equal to 1. Now, let's look at I to the power 101. Okay, so I'm going to take the power divided by 4, and I should get 25, remainder 1. Now, those of you who use calculator, if you plug this into the calculator, you're going to get 25.25. You see how you have 0.25 here? That 0.25 is the same as remainder 1. So whether it's remainder 1 or remainder 0.25, the value should always be I. So if you have something 0.25, that means it's a remainder 1, and the answer is I. Okay? Let's try a different problem. Let's say I to the power 102. Okay? Again, we'll divide the power by 4. Okay, so this is equal to 25, remainder 2. Okay, calculator lovers, you should get 25.5 on the calculator. Since you have 0.5 or 0.50, okay, that means you have a remainder of 2, and that means the value is -1. Okay? So again, The remainder is what decides what value to use. When you have no remainder, 1. You have remainder of 1, it's simply I. Remainder of 2, you have a negative 1. Now, let's practice the last one, which is I to the power maybe 103, just to keep the same pattern. Okay, you take the power, you divide it by 4, you should get 25 remainder 3. Okay, calculator lovers, be 25.75. Okay, so if you get 0.75, that means it's a remainder of 3. So 0.75 means remainder of 3. And this should always give us the negative I. Again, you guys need to memorize the 4 patterns. Okay, those 4. You also need to memorize that they belong to those remainders. If you are a calculator lover, please do the extra step of memorizing the decimal forms of remainder so you can be able to identify the value without having too much hard time.